Welcome to the Raglan Coat class. This is an example of the coat that we are going to be constructing in this class. This one is a salt and pepper tweed. It's a lightweight tweed, but quite nice. So I want to show you first some details. This, of course, is the front of the coat. I've added some extra buttons here because I felt it needed it for my particular purposes. You can see the detailing, like the close-up here we have of the collar. I have used saddle stitching as my top stitching on the collar, on the facing edge, and also on the raglan seams. This is a detail of the cuff latch and the welt pocket. What is that thing on the sleeve? And the official term is cuff latch. Now on the back of the jacket, as you can see, there is a center back seam. It's fairly loosely fitted. It has a bit of a flare to it, but the shoulder, as you can see here, the shoulder is the raglan shoulder. You can see the back of the collar, and you can see the saddle stitching on the raglan seams and on the center back. There is a little bit of a shoulder pad in here. I feel that any kind of raglan or kimono sleeve needs at least a little shoulder pad. And now I'm going to show you some video of the coat laid flat out on the table. Now that we have the coat flat on the table, I just wanted to show you a few of the details. One of the details is the cuff latch. And as you can see here, I used a saddle stitch for top stitching, for really all of the top stitching on this coat. Another detail is the single welt pocket. Again, saddle stitching on the welt, looking up at the collar. You can see here saddle stitching yet again for the collar and for the sleeve. Now you notice here that I put more buttons on rather than just the buttons indicated in the pattern. I decided that I liked more buttons rather than fewer. So when we open the coat up, you can see it's fully lined. You can see the lining here has back pleat. Also, come down here, this is the join with the hem, and as you can see, this is a jump pleat. There's a jump pleat also on the sleeve. So let me turn this over and you get to see the back. So here it is from the back. And you can see here, it has center back seam. Again, center back seam and the raglan seams are stitched with a saddle stitch. And you can see here, the cuff latch is lined with the same fabric as in the lining. And then you can see here, there is the lining sewn into the cuff on the sleeve. So I think it's just good to see the coat so you know really what we're going to be making. This is an introduction to tailoring. So there are some tailoring techniques here, but this is not heavy-duty bulletproof tailoring. Here is the coat flat on the table. And you can see some details like the pocket, the fronts, the collar, and the cuff latches. It's also lined in a rather nice paisley. So yes, This is the coat we're going to be making in this class. This is the front view of the coat we will be constructing in this class. You'll see it's just good to get a good look at it. So some of the details here. You have the welt pockets. You also have a cuff latch. I will talk about different methods of top stitching and bound buttonholes if you so choose, and how to construct the collar. So again, this is the front view, and I will turn her around so you get a good look at the back as well. And here she is from the back. You can see better the raglan seams as well as the center back seam and the collar. So yes, this is the coat we will be constructing in this class. Aside from the pattern, you want your main fabric for the coat and the lining. So let me talk about what I'm using for my particular example. This is, as you can see, it's a wool and lurex boucle. It's going to turn into a nice little kind of cocktail evening coat for a friend of mine because I needed someone to make this for. And then we have the lining. This is a fairly, it's not too heavy, but it's a nice drapey damask. I like damasks, I like jacquards, I like bridal satin. I like something that has a little more heft to it. I hate Bemberg. So what I would say is use something with a little more heft to it. It will actually last longer and feel better when you're wearing it. So these are the two main fabrics. I bought 3.5 yards of this and 3 yards of this, and I will have a little bit extra when this is done. Next, other materials. These are the other materials that we're going to be using to make this coat. So first off, Raglan shoulder pads. This is, as you can see, it's a polyester pad. It has a bit of a shoulder shape. It is not terribly thick. This is probably about 3/4 of an inch thick. You can get some that are a little thinner. You can get some that are a little thicker. But you want a Raglan shoulder pad as opposed to a set-in. It has a completely different look. Then also some fusible Pellon. This is just garden variety Pellon. Anything you have will do. If you even have some fusible tricot, that would work. We don't need a bunch of this. We just need about like 3/8 of a yard. I'm going to use this to interface setting in the pockets. So yeah, anything that you have around your studio will work just fine. Next, tailoring canvas. It doesn't have to look exactly like this. This is the one that I just happen to have. There are some that don't have the stripes. There are some that are they're a little more beige. They're a little lighter in color. We don't really need anything too bulletproof. This is going to be what we use to stiffen out the collar. We're going to use this in connection with muslin. And so this is just shirtweight muslin. This is, I think they call this a number 3. That's called sewing muslin. Something thin, something inexpensive. Don't break the bank for this. About 1/2 yard of this. And then finally, we're going to be using silk organza. And 1/4 yard of this is plenty. I like silk organza because it doesn't have too much shine. It's easy to press. And we're going to be using this when we make the welt for the welt pocket. So here we have our different materials, fusible interfacing, and the shoulder pads. So we have the materials. Let's look at the pattern.